Good evening. Good evening. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be with you here tonight in the beautiful city of Kansas City. Earlier today, I had the opportunity to visit two landmarks in your city. One outside in Independence, the Harry Truman Presidential Library, the other one, the World War I Memorial. And it really made you think about history. I've always been appreciative of American history, but it really makes you think about our past. Um, and so tonight I want to talk about a little bit of our past and how we can have a much better future. During the past 3 years, our nation has been through many things. We have gone through a once in a lifetime pandemic. We have become more polarized. Instead of talking about our disagreements, we take it to the streets in violence. For us to move forward as a nation, we must come together as a nation. Tonight, I want to lay out for you my plan to return America to the nation it once was. In the past 3 years, we have seen progress from record high unemployment to 3.3% unemployment, a near record level. And may I remind you that when the pandemic first started, unemployment was close to 15%. We will reform the unemployment system, a system that was taken advantage of during the pandemic. Just last week, the Department of Labor announced there are 1.6 jobs available for every American. Think about that. For every American, there is 1.5 jobs available. Under a new system that my administration will roll out, and it has been released, it's called enhanced unemployment. Everyone on unemployment will have to have a minimum of 5 interviews a week to qualify for continued benefits. And every able-bodied American will have a job. Every able-bodied American will have a job. Let me make this clear tonight. When I say able-bodied, I'm not talking about our seniors. They've earned their retirement. I'm not talking about our stay-at-home parents. They have made arrangements and are playing a crucial role in their children's upbringing. Who I am talking about tonight is the person who took unemployment during the pandemic and never returned to the workforce. This must change, and under my administration, it will. When it comes to our nation's borders, we must protect our borders. The United States has always been a nation that welcomes people from throughout the world, but we do that through the proper methods. We just do not walk into the borders of the United States or walk through the border areas. Just as last February, I made a trip to El Paso and visited our southernmost border. When I visited the international bridge that connects the United States with Mexico, I saw hundreds of people crossing the bridge and entering the United States the proper way. Not crossing the Rio Grande River, going into people's lands, and entering the United States in the improper way. We must reestablish our borders. And under my administration, we will reestablish our borders. On the world stage, we must be a protector of democracy. The United States is one of the leading democracies remaining in the world. As a world leader, we must do what it takes to protect democracy. And that starts at the state level. During the pandemic, we have seen schools shuttered, now reopen. And we have seen an increased polarization in our nation. To restore our nation to greatness, we must start in our nation's schools. You know, one thing that I believe is missing from our schools, and that is the Pledge of Allegiance, taking pride in one's country. Prayer should be a part of a school, of your school day. There are several districts throughout the nation that prayer is a part of your school day. It plays a vital role in our children's education. You know, since the pandemic, our nation's classrooms have become a political battlefield. It is a battlefield where our students will suffer. Under my administration, we will end that battle and return education to the classrooms. We will teach the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s, and the good, the bad, and the ugly of our history. By doing this, we can ensure that our next generation does not repeat the same mistakes of the past. I have had the good fortune to be married to a full-time educator for over 20 years. Andrea has served in the classrooms as an elementary school teacher, basically everything from K through 5. Earlier in our marriage, she wanted to teach summer school after teaching a full school year. She said at the time she did it for the extra pay. At the end of summer, and as the fall term approached and summer school winded down, she was tired, not fully charged or ready to take on another 9 months of school. And let me tell you, being married to a teacher for that period of time and knowing several professional educators, what they face is a grind. And these teachers, they sacrifice so much for the children of America. But how do we solve a situation like Andrea's and many other classroom teachers in our country? We have to increase teacher pay. And you're going to ask the question, how am I going to increase teacher pay? We must make teachers' pay a livable wage. Too many of our teachers are living on the poverty level. Several have a second job. And I can tell you, being a full-time teacher, that is your second job. There are countless nights that you go home to do lesson plans, to grade homework, to do report cards. Education, being a teacher, it's not a 7 to 3 job 9 months out of the year. This must come to an end. The way we will do it, we will return the federal budget to the 2019 spending levels and reduce unnecessary federal programs and use the differences to fund the increases. And this money will come from the federal level to the state level to help fund these pay increases throughout the country. We must restore a true curriculum to the classroom. We must get rid of this so-called woke education and return to teaching the ABCs, the history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We must return a sense of patriotism to our classrooms. When I was in high school, I had a government teacher who was from a different political party than I was. But during my high school years, he never tried to instill his party's agenda on his students. He taught you how government works, and he instilled a sense of patriotism and pride in you. He made you want to serve. That's the reason why several of his students have entered public service. My very own mayor in my hometown was a student of this teacher. She is now the second female mayor in the city of DeSoto, Texas history. And it's all because of an educator. My education plan, called Back to Basics, will pay teachers a wage they can live on and at the same time support their students and families. We owe it to the students in our classrooms to give them the best possible education. We must prepare them for the future. And I've said this so many times. You think about the people in the workforce now, and the best example that I can give is one of the space program. I'm fortunate enough to have many friends who work in the space program, who work for contractors for NASA. Some are even astronauts. Very brilliant people, bright people, have done amazing things in their lives, have flown into space, have built payloads for the International Space Station. But what's going to happen when these ladies and gentlemen retire? Who's going to take their spot? It's the boys and girls in today's classroom, and we must get them ready to take the helm. And then in order for us to come together as one, we as a nation must once again learn to respect one another. We have turned against each other in oftentimes violent ways. Families are torn apart by senseless gun violence. It is time for us to pass gun reform that does not infringe on our constitutional rights and increase mental health spending to get help to those who need it. You know, the plan I laid out here tonight is just the beginning to what I believe will restore the United States to a nation it once was. You know, we were once at that time. My very first political convention was in 1984, the Republican National Convention in Dallas. The nominee was President Reagan. President Reagan instilled a sense of patriotism into you. Everyone was proud to be American. We waved our flags. There was a popular song by a popular country western singer at the time, God Bless the USA. Let's return the United States to those days of patriotism. Let's return to respecting one another, respecting each other's rights, opinions, and feelings. If we do that, I guarantee the problems that are ailing this nation will disappear. And we will once again become what President Reagan called that shining city on the hill for all to see. May God bless you. May God bless our troops, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all very much. Thank you.